Welcome to another edition of Front Page New Jersey. I'm Michael Aron. The race for governor is a struggle between two men, but it's also a tactical war between two organizations. Later in this program, we'll take you inside the two headquarters where the press secretaries will give us a guided tour. But first, the men who are running these two campaigns and who have been matching wits since June. Jim Florio's campaign manager, Doug Berman of Montclair, is 37, a lawyer, and managed Bill Bradley's 1984 campaign. Jim Quarter's campaign manager, Ken Connolly of Ship Bottom, is 29, a political operative who's worked for the Republican State Committee, the Republican Senate Minority, and the governor's office. Gentlemen, thank you for both coming in today.
Good afternoon.
Ken Connolly, you have 12 full-time paid staff. Doug Berman, you have, you said, between 20 and 24. What do you have that they don't have?
Well, I think we've made a commitment to have a little bit larger research staff, and a little bit more people involved in Jim Florio's scheduling and what's characterized as advance work.
You also pay your people better than they pay their people, or at least we know from what was revealed in a debate that you're certainly much higher paid than Ken Connolly. Are you putting more of your resources into the organization and the day-to-day campaigning while they save most of theirs for television?
I think you always start and you have to figure out how you want to spend your money. The important thing is how you're going to get out the message that Jim Florio is going to carry to the people of New Jersey, which is his proven record of leadership, how he's going to lower car insurance rates, how he's going to protect drinking water. How you choose to do that and allocate the resources is what I get paid for and Ken gets paid for.
Ken, there's been a perception that perhaps your campaign could have used more of what they've had, more staff, more research, more advance work. What do you say now, looking back on the past 3-4 months?
Well, I think the answer now that it's crunch time and we're very, very close to Election Day is the extra $500,000 or $600,000 that we were able to save will actually come in handy. We'll be able to do over 1 million pieces of direct mail. We're advertising on radio, and we'll be very, very competitive, if not outspending Doug, on television. So we think that some of the mistakes that we made in the summer will be long forgotten, and that the money advantage that we will go into the last couple of weeks will make the difference.
I was appalled last year to hear campaign managers and consultants from the Lautenberg-Dawkins campaign replay the race and speak of it entirely in terms of TV commercials. Sometimes people in your line of work think that the entire campaign is won or lost through television advertising.
Well, see, I think, Michael, this race is actually opposite, that most of this race occurred in the summer and in the early part of the fall, that when people look back at the public polls, they're going to see that very little changed in this race once the television advertising started, and it was really a standoff during that part, and it is the voters of New Jersey got to know both candidates through the summer because both campaigned hard. They really took the measure of both people, looked at who's going to lower car insurance rates or whose plan was different on that, and Jim's prepared to take on the car insurance companies, and said that, you know, this is how we'd like to see this race play out, and there's been very little movement since then.
Well, that's simply not true. We all know right after Labor Day when the Eagleton Institute came out, we were 23 points behind, and a KYW poll of just yesterday had us down 14 points.
To what extent do you attribute that purely to TV commercials?
Oh, no, I would agree with Doug. You can't campaign for governor in the state of New Jersey and win on television. I think that when you're running for governor in a state like New Jersey, a governor affects people's lives directly so that they will, in fact, get more information from news or from newspaper coverage as they might get in a U.S. Senate race where they take a less active role in choosing who their candidate's going to be. I was frankly surprised at the Eagleton numbers where people said they were getting 38% of their information from newspaper coverage. That is the direct opposite of what it has been in the past in Senate races.
Yeah, I think, you know, and the Eagleton survey also showed a fair number of people watched the debate. There's been a lot of coverage. NJN has been there every day. I think probably more people have watched that than normally because it has been an outlet where people can find out about the campaign.
I hope you're right. Let me get back to the TV ads for a second. The tone of those ads disgusted half the electorate. The other half doesn't seem to be so offended. But we see editorials talking about the dreadful tone of this campaign. The Florio camp fired with a television commercial. Let me ask you, Doug, is it relevant to the choice for governor that 3 barrels of home heating oil were deposited on land in Ocean County managed by Jim Quarter's brother and weren't removed very promptly by Jim Quarter's brother, Joseph?
Well, I think the question is, does Jim Quarter have a credible environmental record? He has the worst record in the New Jersey delegation. He's consistently fought to weaken the Superfund law. This is a contrast, and how you choose to draw the contrast is an important discussion. And one of the questions I think that it's legitimate to ask is, if somebody has hazardous waste on their land, do they leave it there, or do they have to be told by the State Department of Environmental Protection to clean it up? I do think that that's a relevant consideration.
Was that a cheap shot, Ken?
Oh, I think it was a very inaccurate television commercial. Number one, the material wasn't toxic. Number two, in order to remove toxic waste in New Jersey, Doug, you need permission from the DEP to do it. You just can't go. So you have to be told to remove it.
I mean, it doesn't take a year, and you don't have to be told twice. I mean,
but when the original DEP, wait a second. When the original DEP asked the Quarter brothers to remove it, they did in fact remove it. It was a home heating oil. The photograph that you took had different barrels on it that were dumped by midnight haulers after the original home heating oil.
I don't know what.
Of course you don't.
What barrels were. The barrels were on the land.
But
but when we talk about deceptive commercials,
I think that's the point. You don't know what it was. You didn't know it. You put it on the air.
The
It was wrong.
second thing is, I mean, Jim Quarter tries to say he's an environmentalist by claiming to have gotten this medal from the Sierra Club. 229 congressmen got that for co-sponsoring a bill. The Sierra Club, the Environmental Federation, all endorsed Jim Florio. Is it deceptive for Jim Quarter to say, gee, I'm an environmentalist, in an attempt to take the coattails of the Sierra Club?
Is it, Ken?
No, it isn't, because the fact of the matter is Jim Quarter received the medal. The medal is, in fact, on the television.
But the barrels are on the land, too.
They're not there right now. We still have the medal.
Let's move from the back to how you counterattacked. You counterattacked with a negative commercial, and let me put the question the same way I put it to Doug. Is it relevant to the governor that Jim Florio's former law partner, Carl Poplar, one of the most brilliant defense attorneys in the state of New Jersey, represents defendants in drug cases?
I think what's relevant is the association between Jim Florio and Carl Poplar. What Jim Florio chose to do was to go into a partnership with Carl Poplar, accept money from the law firm, knowing the kinds of people that Carl Poplar represented.
But Jim Quarter represented drug defendants when he was a legal services attorney earlier in his career.
That is correct.
And he's a lawyer. Isn't it a little strange for a lawyer to be castigating a fellow lawyer for living like a lawyer?
Oh, I think what it comes down to is a question of judgment, and particularly Jim Florio consciously chose to go into a legal partnership with Carl Poplar, take money from the firm, and was in fact voting in Congress on drug bills and on criminal rights bills, particularly the exclusionary rule, which Carl Poplar very effectively uses against some people that have been charged and convicted in peddling drugs.
Well, I mean, I think that it reflects that ad Jim Quarter's basic attitude towards the U.S. Constitution, which is not a lot of respect for it. Whether it's the woman's right to choose, where he wants to overthrow the United States Constitution, whether it's attitude towards the Fourth Amendment, or whether it's his attitude towards the right to counsel, Michael. And I mean, it reflects a very basic, different philosophical point of view between Jim Florio, who's kind of there saying, look, we've got to protect a woman's right to choose, and Jim Quarter, who's much freer with wanting to change the Constitution of the United States.
Well, that's number one, it's simply not true. I don't think Jim Quarter has proposed changing the Constitution of the United States to take away a woman's right to choose.
Well, no. Ken, please, what is signing a brief asking the Supreme Court to overturn Roe v. Wade back in March?
It's not amending the Constitution.
It's asking for it to be reinterpreted, certainly.
It's not amending the Constitution.
If there is a right to privacy.
Number two, let's talk about the exclusionary rule. Do you think Senator Bradley wanted to bash down doors like Jim Florio referred to and siding with Jim Quarter on amending the exclusionary rule?
Jim and Bill Bradley disagree on that particular.
Do you think Bill Bradley wanted to bash down doors?
Let's move back to this campaign for a second, although what you're arguing is part of the campaign. But let's move on. Who would have imagined back in May or June that gay rights and abortion would be the issues that have dominated this race? Do you agree with that statement, and would you both agree that those issues have played for Florio? Ken, you first.
Sure they have.
I would say that you would have anticipated half of it. That if
abortion?
Certainly the right to choose. I mean, you did not have to be too much of a soothsayer to look back and know that the Weber decision was being argued and that the likely outcomes were going to affect this race one way or another. And certainly all through May, they were anticipating the decision coming down. So that issue was going to be out there, I think.
Depending on how the Supreme Court ruled.
Well, whatever they ruled, it was going to interject it into the debate, and certainly most people predicted that the decision was going to come out like it did, which was to greatly reintroduce the role of states into the issue of right to choose.
And the quarter camp has been criticized in retrospect for taking 2 days to respond to that decision. Looking back on that, was that a blunder?
Oh, I don't think so. I think the fact of the matter is I think it was in fact appropriate to at least read the summary of the decision and as much of the decision as you could before you commented on it. To immediately come out not having read the decision and depend on news reports to come out with your opinion, I think was politically expedient.
I think if you know your position, you're comfortable with it, you can establish that position. When you have to make a major straddle and flip-flop, you got to think it through.
I suppose Congressman Florio was comfortable with his position in 1987 when he said that he's worked side by side with Congressman Hyde to restrict federal funding.
I think Congressman Florio has been very comfortable with his position throughout this campaign. He's been very clear. Protecting a woman's right to choose is a fundamental thing that he'll be about as governor.
Except when the polls came out saying people were in favor of parental notification, then all of a sudden he decided he might be for that one restriction.
I don't think that's ever been interpreted by Jim as a restriction on the right to choose. It's not.
Speaking of Florio being comfortable, he looks very comfortable with Lucinda Florio out there by his side, and they say they're very much in love, and I don't doubt that. Nonetheless, she looks to some people like a campaign prop. Florio have the lead that he has today if Lucinda Florio didn't exist?
I have no idea. I mean, all I can tell you is that when given an opportunity to sit and hold hands or to kind of talk quietly together, they certainly go for that opportunity. It's just very genuine. I think Jim is happy with Lucinda. He's happy, as he said, being a grandfather. You know, Matthew's now calling him Pop-Pop, and I think, you know, he's comfortable.
Is Lucinda the secret weapon you've had to fight against all summer?
No, I don't think so. I am very happy that Congressman Florio and Lucinda, I do agree they are genuine. They appear to be having fun out on the campaign trail, but no, that is not something we've had to fight against, no.
Something you may also, or you may have had to fight against, was what we read about as inner turmoil in your campaign. We read and we're told that Republicans close to Governor Kane tried to take control of the campaign. You've maintained control of this campaign throughout. How distracting has that all been?
Oh, I think that the more distracting part was when we lost 2 of our primary consultants immediately following the primary victory.
Roger Stone and Greg Stevens in the HUD scandal.
I think that you obviously like to have a united party. I believe we do, in fact, have a united party. It took us longer to get there than we would have liked, but we are moving. Governor Kane has been very, very helpful. As you know, campaigned with us 4 times in the last week. He's a full partner in the campaign, and we're moving ahead.
Where does this race stand with a week and a half or less to go before the election?
That's where it stands. A week and a half to go before the election. The voters are going to decide November 7th that
the KYW poll is the most recent one. It only measured 400 voters. It had a gap of 14 between Florio and Corder. Does that sound about right? You all take polls.
Well, I don't think that the issue of where the horse race is maybe interesting from a news value. I think Ken and I are both committed right now to finish delivering the messages of the candidate, that Jim Florio's proven record of leadership and how he's going to lower car insurance rates, protect drinking water, and where he'll take this state over the next 4 years.
Is 14 points where the race is right now?
Oh, I think we're closer.
How much closer? Single digits?
I think we'll be in single digits by this weekend.
Doug, some people have said that it was easy for Florio to maintain this lead, and I think they think the Corder campaign has made a number of missteps, and that anybody could have managed Florio's campaign to the lead he enjoys at the moment. You've got to resent that perception.
Well, no, it's not. I mean, I think that what Jim Florio's put together is the kind of campaign that suggests how he'll be as governor, which is it's a real team effort. We've reached out to Democrats all across the state. This is not Doug Berman. There are a lot of people in our headquarters, all who work very hard every day. And it's not me. It's all of us working hard that have gotten Jim's message of proven record of leadership out.
We have half a minute left. The two of you met for breakfast, you told me a little while ago, in August. Ken Connolly, what did you talk about, and why did the rival campaign managers meet for breakfast? You have 30 seconds.
We talked about organizing a softball game and going over some ground rules for the upcoming debate. I think it's important for campaign managers to get together. I mean, after all, it is an election about the future of New Jersey and the man that or person that's going to be leading the state of New Jersey. So I think in fact it would be more newsworthy if we hadn't gotten together and hadn't spoken.
All right. Thank you, Ken Connolly and Doug Berman.
Thank you, Michael.
These gentlemen are the field marshals. In a moment, we'll go inside each's tent for a look around, and we'll meet some of the other people working hard for Florio and Corder. We'll be right back. You've met the candidates, their wives, their surrogates, and now their campaign managers. You haven't met their press secretaries, and you haven't been inside their headquarters until now. The Florio campaign is headquartered in a nondescript office building in West Orange. The feeling here is corporate, almost like an ad agency, as producer Retha Sherrod found out this week.
Good morning. Good morning.
Hi, I'm from New Jersey Network. I'm here to see Jon Shure.
Yes, just a moment, please.
Well, that is really very, yeah, very
Good morning, John. Yes, we have New Jersey Network News here. Thank you. We'll be right with you. Have a seat, please.
Thanks. Hi, John.
Hello.
How you doing?
Good.
We're here for our tour.
Great. Grace, she's the most important person here because she answers the telephones.
Yeah.
Thank you.
We couldn't do without her.
Okay. What else can you show us?
Well, let's take a look. It's the press department where I work. Now, people say this campaign has been fortunate that it hasn't made a whole lot of mistakes, but when I chose an office for myself without windows, I made my biggest mistake. Never do it again, and the people who work with me will never forgive me. This is pretty much where we write press releases, talk to reporters, etc. I sit over here. And things are fairly calm most of the time, but when they get really tough, I prepare for anything, and I just sort of get down in the bunker. Come this way. This is the candidate.
How are you?
Probably met
Nice to see you. I'll get hung up on to the car.
We're on our way there now.
On our way there now.
This is Doug's particular pet project.
Oh, yeah?
A frown, obviously, ain't good enough.
It wasn't exactly what we wanted, so.
Kurt, get my good side there.
This is where Jim Florio and Doug Berman, the campaign manager, work, and over here is the campaign art gallery, where we keep the various editorial cartoons from the race.
Who put all these up here?
That's what Doug does in his spare time. The scheduling and advance office, this is where the people work on the schedule, plan the events. They're just about to go out for today's event in Bergen County. This is Andrew Frank, who does the staging for most of our events.
Hi.
And one thing that we don't let him do is advise the candidate on neckties.
What's
You
that?
can see why as you put the camera on him.
Now you're getting Did you get that tie, Andrew?
I just picked it up at the store. Just, you know. Well, I'm trying to do a phone call here. I'm trying to work here. You guys. Excuse me.
really
Sorry about that.
This is Joann Chase. One of her main functions is arranging speakers for events where
What was it that you were saying? I'm sorry.
Jim cannot attend. She's arranges the surrogates, we call her.
Oh, great. I appreciate it. I'm sorry.
Very
It's very confusing, isn't it?
And this is Gene Holtz, who also does a lot of planning the schedule and the events. This is Susan Scavone, who makes sure everybody gets where they need to go on time, in the right place, in the right way. This is Brenda Bacon, one of the campaign's senior advisors on matters of issues, policy, scheduling. We're going to the schedule to the department now, which is one of the secret weapons of the campaign.
Okay.
These people will do the homework. They do all the research on issues. They research the opposition. They also research our candidate, which helps us be prepared for anything the other side might do. It's not, as you can see, the neatest office in the building, but they get a lot of work done. And that's David Applebaum, who runs issues operation. He's on leave from Jim's congressional office in Barrington. He's a very bright person who gets us a lot of information.
Okay, John. What's next?
That will go to the compliance office, which is, modern campaigning has a need for people just to make sure you obey the campaign finance law, that you make sure that everything is reported accurately, and that's where we'll go next.
Okay. Morning.
Good
morning.
Good morning.
This is the compliance office, Jackie and Bob and Joy.
Hi.
And as I said, they pretty much make sure we obey the law, which we try to do rather scrupulously around here. There's a lot of forms to fill out, a lot of reports to file, and that's their job.
What are you guys working on right now?
We have a report that's due with the State Election Law Enforcement Commission. It's our 11-day pre-election report, and that basically outlines all the financial transactions, both receipts and expenditures that the campaign's had in the last few weeks.
Is that it?
That's it.
Okay,
Thanks for coming. Hope you enjoyed the tour.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Hold on, please.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
From corporate land to storefront, the Quarter campaign is headquartered in a small building on the main drag in Morristown and looks like the headquarters of a grassroots political organization.
Hi. New Jersey Network to see Don Sico.
How you doing? Gary Hilton.
Hi, Gary. Finally meet you.
Oh, Rita,
Talk
nice
to you
to
on
see
the phone
you.
all the time.
That's right.
Thanks.
I'll be right with you.
Okay.
Quarter of a Governor, Gary Hilton speaking.
Rita. Nice to meet you.
Don Sico, nice to meet you.
Give us a
You've met
tour
Gary
here?
Hilton?
Yeah.
That's right.
What does he do here besides answer the phone?
Just about everything,
Little
Jack.
bit of
All
everything,
trades.
that's
Yeah, we couldn't survive without Gary.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Let's put all this stuff
Thanks.
on the wall here.
I think Gary did. Why don't you tell me what you
My wall of honor here.
Tell me what you got, Gary.
Well, let's see. We have, of course, George Bush and Dan Quayle. And we have the motto of this campaign staff. What counts is not the size of the dog in the fight, the size of the fight in the dog. General Eisenhower, we cut that out of a magazine the day after the first debate. We thought it was apropos. Congressman really appreciated it.
Okay, what can you show us
Let's go
next?
back to the nuts and bolts of the campaign operation.
Thank you very much for calling.
Usually stuffing envelopes, mailing out photographs, keeping this campaign running.
What are all these people doing here right now?
Well, we are sending envelopes. We have a press release that's going out. We have thank you notes that are being written. Different events that are taking place. We do whatever anybody asks us.
Let's visit our scheduling office. Knock, knock, mind if we come in? And Shriver and Barbara Bush.
Hi, nice to meet you.
And they have the awesome job of scheduling the candidate and trying to make lots of different people happy, and it's not easy. It's next to impossible, actually.
You guys got yeah?
Yes. We are ready for tomorrow. It's 2 pages. That's a big day.
That looks like my copy, doesn't it?
It gets picked up at 6:30 in the morning, and we'll get home around 10:30 tomorrow night. With 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 stops.
What's next?
Yeah, before we move over to the press office, we'll move into Deb DeSantis' office, who is the deputy campaign manager. And Connolly's right-hand woman, so to speak.
The woman behind the man.
The woman behind the man. Let's go and talk.
So what are you working on here, Beth?
I'm doing a little correspondence. We get quite a few letters every day, and I delegate all our letters out to different people, and some of them I like to take the time to respond to myself. So
Like what's this one?
This one is from a little young kid, 7.5 years old, who wrote a really neat letter to Jim, and he was just talking about, what did he say? The first line, I'll read you the first line. "You're a cool principal, Mr. Gook." And that's basically the whole letter, telling Jim he's a really neat guy, and when he grows up, he wants to be a lawyer and a governor, just like Jim.
Now we come to the heart, the soul, and the brains of the campaign, the press office. Kevin Kirk.
Kevin, nice to meet you, finally.
Finally.
Yeah, we met this already, right?
And the real reason why we're winning the fax wars is because we have 2 fax machines.
A lot of work comes out of this office right here. And I have proof that your schedules get there. So next time Mike Aron gives me a call, just tell him right here. I'll save every receipt, every date, and every time. And this is proof of the pudding right here. So you have Mr. Aron call anytime he wishes. I keep everything on file.
Yeah, here we come to the least used but most important office, the press office. This is my desk, and this is the desk of my assistant, Chuck Lightgeb. We are hardly ever here. We are usually on the road with Congressman Quarter. advancing events. When we are here, we get to go through stacks of these things, 90% of which are usually from reporters from the Asbury Park Press, but we always return NJN's calls right away.
And Chuck sits here, right?
Yes. Chuck's super. Chuck's been here longer than I have, actually. Chuck came on board in August, and I came on board in September.
Clean desk, huh?
Yeah, well, for Chuck, that's real clean, let me tell you.
I want to thank you. Okay, thank you for taking me on a tour. Bye.
Well, in fact, on the 8th or 9th, after Jim Porter's elected governor, you can come in and I'll give you a tour of the governor's office.
Okay. Thanks a lot, Don.
Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye now.
Now you've seen it all. Wives, campaign managers, press secretaries, and headquarters. And thanks to Kurt Fissel for the camera work.